Conversation with Grandmother Mona Polacca. For this interview, Grandmother Mona asked me to meet her at a picturesque organic farm called The Farm on the outskirts of Phoenix. A pecan orchard graces the grounds, and hundreds of birds fill the air with song. The cafe serves homemade food, fresh from their garden. It's an oasis of nature amidst the urban sprawl. The power of simple kindness. Greetings, Grandmother Mona. I have a question about your name, Polacca. It tells me there is a purpose to darkness, and this relates to some of your published articles on addiction. Can you tell me, what is the role of spirituality in overcoming addiction and other dark periods?
We call it recognizing yourself. To be able to recognize yourself as a being, a life form, as having a life. You have a life. Your life is sacred, and your life starts from the very basic things like water, air, fire, earth. We call these basic foundations. You have to start there to see that your life is sacred.
What do you mean by sacred?
The sacred is the connection that you have to life itself. Going back to the beginning, the first moment you entered this world. That's what we call your sacred beginning. Of course, the first step that people who are suffering addiction have to take is to say, I need help. Humility has to be there, and then to talk about their spiritual life. Many Native Americans were cut off from their spiritual roots. When they reconnect to their spiritual roots, then there is hope for them. That's the approach I see as being effective. I've seen a lot of Native Americans sustain their sobriety through the first step of recognizing themselves in the spiritual meaning of that term. That's what I have seen all the years I've done this work. I've tried to do something else, but I can't.
You tried to quit your work with addiction recovery, but you couldn't? What happened?
I wanted to get skilled for some kind of 8-to-5 job. When I had my children, I wanted to stay home and take care of the kids. But life is happening around you. You can't shut it all out and act like it doesn't matter. It matters because your kids live in it. My kids lived in the community. They were being exposed to some of the woes of life. The people I cared about were suffering. I wanted my children to care about them also. I taught my children to care for others. So I continued to help those in my community while at the same time to raise my children. I had to teach the people I was bringing into my home how to be a good person, how to be someone who was healthy to be around my kids. I had to make sure it was safe for my kids. I engaged some of the people who were suffering in my life, and I made them a part of my family. I invited them into my home. It wasn't easy at first. It was a different environment from alcohol, drugs, and violent television they were used to. We created a different environment inside our home.
When you invited the people with addiction problems into your home, how did that go?
I will tell you about one of them, a man who was an alcoholic and spent time in prison. He got out of prison and came into the community where I was working with the alcoholic and drug recovery program. I told my father, everybody calls him a name, a certain name, which isn't very complimentary, rather than his given name. He's really, really mean. He's angry all the time. He doesn't talk nice. And my father said, you still have to be kind to him. He doesn't know what kindness is like. He has to learn. He doesn't know kindness, and he doesn't know how to treat people nice. It's life experience, how he grew up, the way he was raised. He doesn't know how to be treated nice or to treat people nice. He doesn't know how to be friendly. He's always on guard and ready to fight. My mother said, "He's like a puppy. If you have a puppy and you treat it really mean, if you pick on it, if you hit it, that puppy's going to grow up to be a mean dog."
So, are you telling us that as children we're innocent and we become how we are treated?
That's what my parents taught me. Treat him nice because he can't help the way he is. So then my parents would go out for coffee and cake or pie or something at a coffee shop. And if he came in, they'd wave him, call him over, and invite him to sit down for a visit. Eventually, I worked with him so he could come over to my house for dinner and be around my children. I had to teach people like him how to be around the kids. And when he'd get there, my kids would run to him and hug him. One was hanging on his leg. They got it. My children were kind to him. In public, when they'd see him, they'd hug him, call him by his real name, not the nickname. He told me, "You and your family, you're the only ones that call me by my real name. And your kids, they always act like they're happy to see me." I said, "Well, they are happy to see you." So I taught him how to be around family. Then I taught him to drive. He wanted to learn how. He got into the car and put it in reverse and hit the gas pedal and almost crashed. I said, "Stop, hit the brake." It was a close call. I told him, "You always have to look and see what's behind you." One day I said, "Let's go over to Dairy Queen and get an ice cream." I took the kids and him. When we got there, he stood way back. We picked out what we wanted. I asked him, "What do you want?" He said, "I don't know. I don't know." He had never been to Dairy Queen. He'd never ordered ice cream anywhere. He didn't know what to do. Part of it was he didn't know how to read. We picked out something for him. We got him into an adult basic education class. He learned how to read and write. And then he got his GED. He told me, "I'm clean and sober for years. I have my GED, but everybody still calls me by that bad name, and they still treat me like they used to." He still dressed the same old way, jeans and white t-shirts with the sleeves rolled up. That was his uniform. So, my colleague took him out shopping and brought him slacks and polo shirts and some new shoes and got him dressed up. It made a big difference. He felt good about his appearance. After that, nobody called him that bad name anymore. They called him by his real name. I gave him his first job in a halfway house. He was a resident and worked part-time there. Then he finished his program and started working for me as a manager. He was eventually certified by the state of Arizona to be a chemical dependency counselor. He's the only one on our whole reservation who accomplished that.
My goodness, what a stunning story. And it all started with basic human kindness?
Basic kindness. He was someone who didn't know what kindness was, had never been treated nice, had never been kind to others, and kindness changed his whole life.
Wow. Non-possessiveness. Grandmother Mona, in addition to being kind, you also teach us to be non-possessive, like with water and the other elements. What does the water element feel like?
It's one of the elements of life: the water, the air, the fire, the earth. Look around us. These trees, the birds. It's beautiful. The elements of life are not separate. They are all connected. And just to be here, you are part of that connection. I can be sitting at my place, which is a small apartment in Tucson, and I can pray. I'm still practicing my spirituality. But to be in it, to be in what I'm praying about, that's important. In this day and age, the society we live in, there's a lot of consumerism and possessiveness. People want to possess. They want to own it. They think, I have to have it. No, we don't have to own something in order to enjoy it. I don't own this place, but I can be part of it and have it at special moments. I don't have to own it. I don't have to grab it and take it. I don't have to try to take it home with me or pull up the trees. They have the garden. I can enjoy its beauty. If I wanted to take something home with me, I could go get something from the garden. Or I could save the food we're eating right now and take it with me. It's good energy, but I don't have to possess it. People think they have to own things, but they don't. One time, I met a young man who went to a ceremony using the sacred medicine. A couple days later, he asked me, "What do I need to do to get that medicine?" I said, "You want to possess it?" He said, "Yeah, what do I need to do to get it?" I said, "You don't have to do anything. You partook of it. You already have it inside of you. That's all. You don't have to have it and carry it around with you and show it off. You don't have to walk around and say, I have this in my possession. You don't have to do that." The same thing with all other sacred ways. The instruments used in Tibetan Buddhism, in Christianity, the Eucharist, whatever the world religions, they have certain things that are sacred medicine, sacred items, just like Native Americans have sacred medicine and sacred herbs. We use them, but they do not belong to us.
Now, what do you recommend to us if we are drawn to a certain spiritual practice?
People think they have to possess something in order to practice spirituality, but respect is the key. Hold the medicine, the ceremony, the path with respect. Look at it and speak about it with respect. If you have the opportunity to be in the ceremony, be respectful, right in your heart, and be humble. That's the number one thing. Be respectful. Don't grab something for yourself. If it's offered to you, receive it with respect. Those are some of the thoughts I would share with the young people. I think about these things, but I haven't had a chance to talk about them.
All my relations. Well, one phrase that the younger generations really connect with is all my relations. What does that mean?
It refers to interconnectedness with all of life. Everything. We're all related. We are here for all our relations. I'm not just talking about my relatives, my immediate family, or husband, or children. I'm talking about everything from within Mother Earth to the surface of the earth, up to the sky, all the way to the universe and beyond. That's our relations. That's our existence. Whatever we do to another, it's the same as if done to us.
Wow. If we were taught that the other person is me, that the water is me, we wouldn't harm them. Instead, like how I grew up, it was instilled, it's all about me.
Well, I was instilled with, it's not all about me. When I was 13 or 14, my mother told me, "You're not in this world for nothing. You have a purpose in life. What you do affects everything else. Your parents, your siblings, your whole family, the family name, the community, the town, the state, the country, the world. Everything you do has a connection with everything else. That's interconnectedness. That's what all my relations means. That's having a relationship with life and understanding that we are all related. My mother is Havasupai from down in the Grand Canyon. Havasu means the water. Havasupai means people of the blue water. So she'd say, the fish in the water, they're your relatives. When we approached the waterfall, she said, let the water know you are here and that you would like to be in it. Give it respect. This understanding is universal with Indigenous people. We say red, yellow, black, and white. That's the people. We're the people. Even whites are Indigenous. I was told that we're all Indigenous people to Mother Earth. We were all given the instructions on how to live here and to honor this relationship, but some have forgotten.
The basic foundation, creation and the four elements. Well, I and the white people I know, we don't seem to remember those original instructions of caring for the earth. For example, I was taught just from books, not from nature. But you, Grandmother Mona, had a really different upbringing. You're emphatic that we must see what we all have in common.
Do you know what it is?
Well, please tell me.
I already told you.
You already told me?
You're not listening yet. We are all dependent on the basic elements of life. None of us can do without any one of them. Water, fire, air, earth. Water is the first foundation of life because we live in water in the womb and we follow the water out of the mother. Air is the second foundation as we take our first breath as soon as we arrive in the world. We open our mouth and fill our lungs with air. When we let it out, we make our first cry and let the world know we are here. We express ourselves and what we need in life. We give our song. Fire is the third element as we are taken into the warmth of our mother's arms and our caretakers build up a fire for us that is warm and welcoming. They take us outside and the sun sees us. Then, the fourth foundation is the earth, as we are laid on Mother Earth. Finally, we are made to stand up on our feet. With our feet planted on Mother Earth, we experience balance for the first time. We take our first steps on the earth, and we walk our path which has brought us to this point. Every person has a primal connection to these four elements and all of creation. Awareness of life means to awaken with gratitude for the Creator who is in water, fire, air, earth, and who also lives inside of us.
But most of the world has forgotten this primal connection to creation and the four elements. What's it going to take for humans to change the way we relate to the earth?
There's a saying, only when all of the waters are polluted, only when we cannot breathe, only when the plants no longer grow, only when the sun is covered by pollution and there is no sunlight, only then will we realize that we cannot live on money alone. That's where we're heading. It shouldn't have to take that. It shouldn't take a crisis. It should take anybody to look at a little child, their newborn baby, and say, my little child, I'm going to make sure that your life, is going to be strong and healthy. You're going to have good, clean water to drink, whether you have money or not. But many people do not care about others. They have no understanding of all my relations. If we viewed the earth as a living being, which it is, would we treat it like this? No.
Well, is there anything ordinary people can do just in our daily life to bring more balance and care to this terrible situation?
The word that comes up for me is preservation. To think about preservation. What does it mean? preservation of the existence of the ones that are yet to come. It's really pretty simple. What are the steps you're willing to take to preserve water, for example? Out of love for life, are you willing not to waste? Getting conscious of your own usage, realizing it's not all about me. One of the instructions I was given when I was growing up was to know your water. Where is your good, clean drinking water? Where's your source of water? And you have to take care of it and protect it. Keep it clean.
Yeah, thank you. Forgiveness, respect for all people, and human rights. Grandmother Mona, you and your people have been through horrific suffering. How do you relate to the atrocities of the past?
We are not defined by our past and what has been done to us. This is not to say that we forget it, but I was raised to have a good nature and to have good relations. I was taught by my elders always to be kind.
Even with the people who are the so called enemy, those who have harmed you?
My father specifically said to me, be kind to your enemies. Treat them with kindness. Greet them. There was a person who offended me, who did and said mean things. I was at a community event and saw him. People were greeting me. I was greeting everybody and hugs and smiling and all that. And he was standing there. I walked right past him, totally ignoring him. I observed him after that, and I saw how hurt he was. I don't like to inflict that kind of hurt. The same thing with my words. I don't want to speak unkindly either. I was taught that it's bad medicine to treat others unkindly. It's like stabbing someone, it's hurting them. It's like you could say something to somebody and it could cut them. You could even look at somebody in a mean way and hurt them. Even walking by them with that energy, you could hurt them. That's what I was taught.
Yeah. When I attended the Indigenous Grandmothers gathering with you and the other grandmothers on the council, this was in South Dakota in 2014, I was shocked to hear that the Catholic Church still has papal bulls that call for the forcible conversion and conquest of Indigenous peoples.
Yes, we are beseeching Pope Francis to rescind the bulls that call for the use of force against Indigenous peoples. These bulls remain the spiritual, legal, and moral foundation for exercising jurisdiction over tribal people. When we went to the Vatican, we did not plant our flags, we planted our prayers. The Vatican is a place of prayer. It is considered sacred. Anytime we go to a sacred place, we plant our prayers and make our offering. It could be a mountain. It could be a river. It could be a lake. It could be any place. When we went there, we had planned on being at one of the Pope's public audiences, but he canceled his public audience. We went there anyway because it really isn't about him per se. It's about what the Vatican represents. We were planting a prayer. When we were there praying, an American man walked up and yelled at us, "Stop this. What you're doing is anti-Catholicism, and I'm calling the police." We just looked at him and we kept praying. He stood there and watched us in a hostile sort of way. The police came and shouted at us. We still kept on praying while some of our helpers spoke with them. When Beatrice, the Lakota grandmother in her 80s, stepped up to the chief of the Pope's security, I saw a tiny little butterfly fly in, touch her moccasin, and then fly up over the basilica. And you know what she did? Grandmother Beatrice told the officer, "What's the matter here? We're just little old grandmas praying over here. That's all we're doing." She put her hand on his heart and said, "You have a grandmother, don't you?" He said, "Yes." She said, "Now, tell me, Would you forcibly stop your grandmother from praying? He shook his head. And then he turned to his officers and said, "Well, looks like everything's okay over here. They're not doing anything wrong." He looked at us and said, "Grandmas, you go ahead and finish your prayer. And then when you're through, I'll have the security officer escort you straight into the basilica. You can continue your prayer in there, or you can sit and relax and have a drink of water and cool down." It was very powerful.
Living in alignment. The grandmothers have formed a council to address the problems of the world. It's your Indigenous Grandmothers Council. You spread compassion and share your wisdom. What do you recommend for other people to do?
We all want something good in our lives, but at the same time, there are teachings to follow in order to be in alignment. Basic teachings. For one, I was taught to be up by the time the sun rises. At dawn, be awake. Stand up. Be ready to go out to receive the opportunities that the day has to give to you. I was told, if you're lying down when the sun comes up and the sun sees you lying there, it might think you're dead. Rise with the sun. Travel with the sun all day long. Another teaching is not to be lazy. Keep yourself clean. Take care of the things around you. Take care of yourself, your parents, your animals. Before we could go anywhere, we had to clean. We couldn't go anywhere unless the house was clean. Even if the parents had to be somewhere, they wouldn't leave until we finished cleaning. Anyway, there were certain things about how to greet the day.
And what are the prayers each day?
We thank everything, all the basic elements in life, from the time you first meet the day. You just acknowledge them and give thanks for them. The prayer has been made. We say it makes a way for you. The prayer creates the clearing of your path for you to go forward in the day. Prayer in the morning, every morning. This reminds me of Grandmother Beatrice, one of our Lakota grandmas. I shared a room with her when we went to an event. At night, she gets in bed and lies down, then closes her eyes and starts praying. And she prays, and she prays, and prays until she goes to sleep. And I do that now sometimes, to rise in prayer and to go to sleep in prayer. And then Grandma Sering, the Tibetan grandmother, I shared a room with her one time. Early in the morning, she gets out her little altar and the sun's not even up yet. I wake up and see her. She's sitting there on her bed with her Tibetan altar. It looks like a little house. She's saying her prayers. How beautiful that I was able to see these elders and how they pray, even in their own private moments, praying.
That's really beautiful. In terms of ordinary people who want to help the world, where's a good place to start?
Small circles. That's a good way to start because the important thing is connection. In huge corporations and organizations, there's no sense of that connection. We have to rebuild our knowledge of interconnectedness in small ways. If you start in your small circle, you build understanding of each other, a relationship of caring and sharing. They don't have to be blood relatives. They're like chosen family. Create a small circle and start there. And everybody has their gifts, knowledge, and experience to bring to the circle. If you build the relationship of trust and caring, then you are prepared to help each other. When the shelves in the grocery store are empty, what are you going to eat? When the electricity goes out, how are you going to stay warm? Those are very real things, and it's not a matter of being a Debbie Downer. It's a matter of realizing that we are all interconnected. It's the basic need for kindness and caring. It's a time of transition, and we don't know what lies ahead. I never thought I would live to see the day when that calendar could be completed as my elders prophesied. So, we are being aware and listening and preparing our minds and hearts. At the same time, it's important to know that we have this opportunity to live our life in joy and surround ourselves with beauty, to enjoy, truly enjoy our life. Just listen to those birds all around us right now.
Grandmother Mona opened my eyes to the beauty of life all around me. Even though we talked about the world's difficulties, I felt more hope. I saw more clearly the power of love to transform a difficult situation, maybe an addiction, a typhoon, or an argument. I heard that to bless or appreciate something gives it life. To show people genuine kindness lifts them to a higher plane. Simply to be thankful for water and food, that makes a positive contribution. As I walked to my car, I was newly aware of all four elements: the air, the water, the sun, the earth, the basic foundations of life we cannot live without. Trees, grass, passers-by, dogs, and squirrels. I had a new appreciation for my relatives. Creation is alive. We're never alone. The grandmothers helped me remember what I had forgotten. Spiritual teaching, they say, is mainly remembrance of the truth we already know, because it's inside of us. The original instructions that the grandmothers talked about are pretty simple. All of life is sacred, and we are all connected. All my relations is a Lakota phrase that reminds us we're all connected to each other, like relatives in the sacred web of life, since the beginning of time and until the end of time. It includes our ancestors who have passed and the children yet to be born. It includes every blade of grass and every drop of rain. Rita Long Visitor Holy Dance, a Lakota member of the International Council of the 13 Indigenous Grandmothers, she told us at the gathering, "All my relations" is a phrase that functions like a prayer. She said, "You think of everything in your prayers, even the birds and insects. All my relations is a prayer in itself. It covers the whole world." What I learned from the grandmothers is to be authentic to what I am, just to pray with heart and soul, to water the seeds of hope and healing, to be a steward of whatever positive teaching I've been given, and to be respectful of where and how I walk, to use the spiritual medicine wisely, not selfishly, to honor the sacredness of life within myself and all around me, to be kind to the life inside and around me. For the greatest effect, I learned from my teacher that the practice of kindness is unconditional and desires no reward from anyone.